Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic part 1. Which is what if Naruto mastered the Bloody Mist style and became unstoppable part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Come here kid. The tattered voice of the now dying demon of the mist Zabuza Momochi called out to the young blonde Konoha shinobi. Naruto cautiously approached the dying man, who just moments ago had gone from being an enemy to helping his team defeat A.H. horde of bandits. Yes Zabuza, I need a favor kid cough I need you to kill me. Zabuza managed between coughs of blood. At the sight of the blonde's shocked face, he decided to elaborate. Listen up kid, the world as you've seen is not a forgiving place. Not only do I want to help you get your first kill out of the way I'm also ensuring that my sword is taken care of. If I die of my wounds Kubikiribocho can be taken by anyone, but if you kill me, then the sword will only recognize you as its master. Carry on my legacy. Naruto was stunned, but the respect he had for the man in front of him was too great to deny him this one request. I'll do it Zabuza, I'll be your legacy. He said, with a firm conviction. Place my hand on yours. Zabuza instructed. The young blonde did as he was told, and Zabuza with some of his dwindling reserves placed a small seal on Naruto's hand. That will allow you to see all the instructions you need in your dreams tonight. It will also give you confirmation if you ever meet my last living teammate Kisame. If you do, tell him, the will of the blades calls on you to return, and teach the next generation, from there he'll know what to do. Now do it kid, before I die of old age. Zabuza laughed as he spit up blood. Naruto steeled himself, and with shaky hands, plunged his kunai into Zabuza's chest. Thank you Naruto. Goodbye my friend. Goodbye my friend. Naruto said, as tears rolled down his cheeks. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi looked down at the boy who had just taken his first life. Even if it had been a mercy killing. Yes Naruto. Quote, you said that when a ninja dies in action or goes rogue, their body is destroyed on the spot, so that their secrets are kept right. That's right. I don't know any fire jutsu, so would you do me a favor? Honor them, and burn them, like true shinobi. Naruto said, not lifting his head, for fear if he did his tears would flow stronger than the tides below them. Of course Naruto, I should have enough chakra for at least that. Kakashi smiled slightly, as he flashed through hand seals. The Konoha shinobi, and the people of Waves watched, as the bodies of two fallen shinobi returned to dust. That night, as Naruto slept, before his long journey home. As he slept visions of his new blade filled his mind. A seal on the bottom of the handle that would release a scroll, one on the side of the pommel containing training weights, and what looked to be a wooden replica of the sword with seals on it that would make it heavier the more chakra that was added to it. After a much less eventful return to the leaf, Kakashi had instructed the team to take some time off after they reported to the Hokage. He had not so subtly motioned to Sasuke that the two of them would go for one-on-one training later. The moment Naruto had been given clearance to leave his team, he made his way to their usual training ground, and unsealed both the scroll and the practice sword from the hilt. The Bloody Mist style. This style relies heavily on speed, the silent killing technique, and the hidden mist jutsu. Naruto read aloud as he continued to scan through the scroll, before his eyes landed on the instructions for the hidden mist jutsu, as well as the water walking technique, and the basic katas of the style. What most people didn't know, was that Naruto had learned the secret of the shadow clones on the bridge in Waves. After his clones had dispelled from helping with the bridge, he'd remembered everything they learned, and even felt his chakra control increase when he had used them to walk along the sides of the bridge, and smooth the mortar on the stones. So creating a small bundle of 50 clones, Naruto instructed 25 to practice water walking, 20 to practice katas, and 5 to go to different points of the field, and practice the hidden mist jutsu. While his clones were working on their IGN-ments, Naruto placed the training weights on his arms, legs, and the vest-like weight over his chest. Once they were securely in place, the young blonde began adding chakra to the weights until they reached the desired weight. In total the weights only equaled 50 pounds, but to Naruto it was a good start, as he began jogging laps around the training field. The burnt orange of sunset saturated the night sky, as the novice swordsman laid in the open field. His chest rising, and falling steadily, as he absorbed the information of his clones. With only 5 clones working on the hidden mist jutsu, he had managed to learn the jutsu, but it still took a few minutes for him to completely cover the area. The drawback could be negated with the use of a shadow clone, while he distracted the opponent. However, that only worked if he was one-on-one. The plus side was if he were given a mission along the lines of a I Nation, he'd be able to roll the mist in, and in most cases make it look natural. The 25 clones working on water walking had also managed to cut down the time it took to learn the technique, and while he couldn't fight a prolonged battle on water like Kakashi or Zabuza, he could stay on the water and lightly jog for about 3 minutes before his control slipped. The goal was to be able to sprint on the water for an hour, before sparring with his clones on the water's surface for at least 20 minutes. The last 20 had given him a basic understanding of his new weapon, but he was still nowhere near proficient, or strong enough to swing the blade with the speed of its former master. Making his way back towards his apartment, Naruto made a quick detour by the library, and checked out several books from the genin section. The books covered shinobi etiquette, basic battle formations for 4 and 3-man cells, geometry for studying the angle, and velocity to hit targets at different angles with kunai and shuriken, diversion tactics, basic taijutsu styles, advanced jutsu theory, a scroll on the shunshin, and advanced stealth techniques. That night as he slept, the young swordsman left a clone to study each book. With each clone only using enough chakra to sustain themselves, they managed to keep themselves sustained the entire night. The following morning, Naruto left the clones to reread the books until they dispelled on their own, while the original went to meet his team for their morning exercises. More like Kakashi will tell Sakura and I to work on chakra control and physical conditioning, Naruto said, as he exited the apartment, only to be stopped by the clone studying etiquette. "Boss, you're gonna wanna take a look at this," he said, handing the boy the book, with a page opened. The original took the book from his clone, and read the page over several times. "This is perfect. Reread the book for about another hour, and then dispel. I'm gonna need the information when my team meets with Gigi." "Naruto Baka, you're late," Sakura yelled as her blonde teammate arrived at the training ground. "Note that Kakashi still isn't here, so your argument is invalid and pointless," he said coldly. Over their trip back to the village, and the day following it, Naruto had re-evaluate his feelings for the pink-haired girl. Even when he was battered and bloody, the only thing she cared for was the Uchiha. "What the hell do you think you're saying, Baka? Don't try and be cool, you doby," she yelled, attempting to swing her fist at the young Uzumaki, only for her wrist to be snatched out of the air by the blonde. "I am not the punching bag for your emotional fits, Haruno," the blonde said coldly, as a storm of rage bore from his eyes into the young genin's soul. "I also feel I should inform you that I ordered a 730 evaluation to be conducted this afternoon, as I feel you are a danger to yourself and others in the field, as well as mentally unstable given your continued misconduct of attacking a fellow Konoha shinobi outside of a sanctioned spar." Sakura was shocked, first by the fact that Naruto had stopped her from hitting him, something he had never done before, and second by not only the fact that Naruto knew what a 730 evaluation was, but that he had the guts to call her on it. A smirk played on her lips as she remembered one of the statutes to calling a 730 hearing. "You can't do that, Baka. Only a superior officer can call for a 730. Quote, "You're right. I merely suggested it, and allowed Inochi Yamanaka to search my memories for the appropriate memories that would corroborate my testimony. He agreed with my estimate, and relayed the information to the Hokage. Both men agreed that you were in need of the exam to determine your ability for continued service in the shinobi forces. Naruto, such things should be sorted in-house, before bringing them to the Hokage. You shouldn't go around your chain of command." Kakashi spoke, as he arrived from behind the young blonde. "I didn't go around the chain of command. The Hokage asked to speak with me about my new sword, and wanted to warn me that any surviving members of the 7 swordsmen, such as Kisame Hoshigaki, who is still at large, may come looking for revenge, and to reclaim Kubikiribocho." Quote, "But didn't Zabuza say Kisame would help you if you met?" Kakashi reminded him. Kisame was only an example. Aside from him, there are another 5 of the 7 still out there. In addition to that, you have any number of missing ninja from Kiri who may seek to get back in their good graces by killing me. Kiri is also currently in a civil war. There's nothing saying the current Mizukage won't send out a squad to retrieve it from me. Currently it's known that 4 of the blades are missing. 2 are in the hands of Kiri's missing ninja. 1 is AS rank, and 1 is an A- rank. The easiest option would be to fake a missing ninja, and have me killed. The return of Kubikiribocho would be a great moral boost to the regime. While we were having this informal conversation, he asked me how training was going, and to give him details of the goings-on of our team, in order to ensure that our team was prepared for the possibility of a Kiri Nation attempt on our next out-of-village mission. When I informed him of the goings-on of Squad 7, as is my duty to report when asked by the Hokage, he asked for my recommendation. I gave it to him. He also instructed me to deliver Squad 7 to his office when you arrived. Kakashi scowled at the thought of his genin going behind his back, but nodded. All right then, squad. We shouldn't keep the Hokage waiting, he said flatly, before turning to lead his group to the tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi prided himself on his level of headed demeanor. On a normal day he could listen to the most irritating of news and recommendations, most of which came from his civilian council. However, today was not one of those days. So in summation, you neglected the training of 2 of your students in favor of the 3rd, and while favoritism of any kind is not allowed, that 3rd student already had the most resources to begin with in the form of clan scrolls and training manuals. Your deliberate neglect lead to the endangerment of your genin squad on their first C-rank mission. Hokage-sama, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Sasuke needs that extra training to avenge his clan. Sakura blurted out, before she shrunk back in fear at the cold glare the normally warm man sent her way. Don't think I've forgotten about you, Miss Haruno. Multiple accounts of alding a fellow Konoha shinobi, and accusations of failure to adapt. You do know, Miss Haruno, that if you fail to show significant improvement within 6 months you'll be recycled to the next senior shinobi CL. Sakura paled at the thought of being separated from her Sasuke-kun. Please, Hokage-sama, I have improved. I learned the tree walking technique. A simple chakra control exercise that should have been taught to you in the first month of your training. Not when you were behind enemy lines, in an active combat zone. Hiruzen chastised. Then what about Naruto? Wouldn't he be sent back too? Sakura questioned, trying to throw Naruto under the bus for causing their problems in the first place. Naruto Uzumaki can do what no other genin can do with the shadow clone jutsu. Quote, I have several other skills under my belt. If necessary, I'm more than willing to demonstrate my new skills to you. That won't be necessary, Naruto-kun. Your new sensei will be more than happy to test your skills once you've both been acquainted with each other. Quote, new sensei Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked. Yes, Naruto is being removed from Team 7, as he has been requested for apprenticeship by Yugao Azuki, Konoha's top kenjutsu expert. Sakura will have a 730 hearing to determine her mental competency, and if she pays she will be tested. If she is to have not improved she will be recycled to the next Academy CL after the new Restructor I, and Elder Danzo will be implementing. Sasuke will be reclassified as your apprentice, and you will receive several marks on your record putting you on Jonin probation for the next year. Now everyone except for Genin Uzumaki is to vacate my office. With the other 3 other shinobi exited the room, an elderly man wrapped in bandages, and carrying a cane entered the room, with a small smile. I have to thank you, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen, and I have been trying to reform the academy for the past several years, but the civilian council has been blocking us, citing that there was no evidence of a need to reform it in these times of peace. Danzo said, looking down at him. That's foolish at best, and willfully negligent at worst. In times of peace we should have the best education. During a war we need bodies, we would have to give the bare minimum instruction, and send them off to fight. During peace times we have the luxury of time for more in-depth instruction. Naruto spoke, remembering the book his clone had read the night before. The book that had been written by the bandaged man before him. Very well put, Naruto-kun. I see you have been doing a bit of individual study in your days since the academy. I look forward to seeing your progress during the Chunin exams in a few months. The elderly man said, with slight pride, before removing a scroll from his robes. I'd like you to have this. It's a scroll on my own jutsu, the vacuum bullet. Consider it my thanks for your indirect help with the academy. Naruto took the scroll, and looked up at the man before him. Are you sure, Danzo-san? This seems like a valuable gift for indirect help. Think nothing of it, Naruto-kun. It's a bit selfish of me if I were being honest. I have no heir to pay my knowledge down to, so knowing that my knowledge may help to save a talented young shinobi's life is good enough for me. Besides, the strength your actions today will bring to the village will more than even the scales between us. Just know that once you have become acquainted with your new sensei, I will be calling on you for a C-rank mission to take care of some bandits in the northern part of the country. Quote, you see Naruto-kun, Danzo here as one of the two individuals responsible for our major intelligence networks. The second is my old student Jiraiya. It is why he and Danzo are rarely in the same place at the same time. Quote, I see. That is why your student is rarely seen in the village. Though if you could convince your other wayward student to return, it would boost our morale and improve our medical program. Naruto said, as he looked at his grandfather figure. I would if I could, Naruto-kun, but Tsunade is in a very emotional state. Hiruzen, that was almost 30 years ago. The woman has been using it as an excuse to shirk her responsibilities as a clan head and a kunoichi of this village. Quote, Tsunade has been through a lot, Danzo. She lost her lover and her brother. Is that all? Naruto spoke, surprising the two men. Every shinobi has lost people. Sasuke lost his entire clan in one night at the hands of his own brother. My parents were killed the night of my birth by the very beast that was sealed inside of me, and Kakashi lost his father and squad during the Third World War. Naruto-kun is right, every shinobi has lost something important to them. Hiruzen sighed, seeing that his hands were tied. Grabbing a scroll from the nearby desk, he began to write down a message. Naruto-kun, meet your sensei at the main gate tomorrow morning. Track down Tsunade, and tell her I am giving her orders to return to the village immediately. If she refuses to come with you, tell her you are authorized to follow, and detain her. You and Yugao can train during the trip, and use it as a chance to get to know each other. This will be another long-term C-rank mission, so get whatever affairs you have in order for at least a month of travel. Quote, of course, I'll report in as soon as possible. Naruto spoke, before being dismissed. The rest of Naruto's day was spent training with his clones on the Hidden Mist, Water Shockwave, Vacuum Bullet, Taijutsu Katas, and Kenjutsu Kata. After his training was complete, he paid his rent for the month, and stopped by a shinobi shop for some extra kunai, and a new wardrobe. Deciding to say a fond farewell to his orange jumpsuit, he instead opted for a black form-fitting tank top, and cargo pants. Naruto couldn't help but stare for a moment at the beauty who stood before him. Her heart-shaped face was framed by long royal purple hair. Her red pouty lips were formed into a stoic expression. You must be Yugao-sensei. Naruto said, with a smile. Yes, and you're Naruto Uzumaki, my new apprentice, and wielder of the legendary Kubokiri Hocho. Now that we know each other's names, we should get moving. Danzo Dono's sources say Tsunade is north of here, Heiai Okane. We need to arrive there quickly, before she runs out of gambling money, and skips town. We can focus on your training during our return trip, and make a small vacation out of it. Sounds good, you set the pace, and I'll keep with you. Naruto spoke in a surprisingly professional tone. Can you keep up with mid-chunin speeds? Yugao asked. Naruto replied by forming a ram seal, and dispelling his weights. I can now, let's go. Yugao nodded, taking note to ask the young Uzumaki about the amount of weight he was using for training. Deciding their current mission was more important, the two of them decided to take off with no further questions. It took several hours, moving at mid-chunin speeds, before the pair made it into the small town of Heiai Okane. The town mainly consisted of a handful of mansions, and a couple of apartment complexes, but the largest buildings were the casinos. Dozens of the large casino hotels littered the streets as Naruto and Yugao walked towards the gates. Naruto looked at Yugao, and removed his headband, before sealing it, and his blade in his arm. What are you doing, Naruto? It's one thing if a couple is walking around looking for Tsunade, but if she catches wind two Konoha shinobi are looking for her, she'll bolt, before we ever get close to her. Yugao almost kicked herself at the realization. Naruto-kun, would you mind standing watch while I go change into some civilian clothes? My Jonin outfit will give me away just as much as my headband. Quote. Of course, Yugao-sensei. Naruto nodded, looking at her. Actually, since it's just us, Naruto-kun, you can just call me Yugao. Calling me sensei during undercover ops may arouse some suspicion. Of course, Yugao-chan. I'll stand guard. That tree over there looks big enough for you to have cover, he said, pointing to a fairly wide tree. Yugao's cheeks flushed slightly at the boy's choice in honorifics, but she quickly hid it by moving behind the tree. Naruto leaned against the tree on the opposite side of the road, in order to draw the attention of anyone who happened to walk down the road. Speaking of attention, Naruto was trying not to pay attention to the form of a changing Yugao, who was facing away from him behind the tree. It proved to be mostly impossible, as the tree proved not to be thick enough to completely hide Yugao's form from the boy. With her back to him, Naruto could just make out the shape of her bubbly pale cheeks, as she bent over to remove her pants. The action also revealed a small Oni mask holding a tanto in its teeth tattooed just below her left cheek. As he noticed his new sensei exit from her impromptu changing room, Naruto decided to steal his features, to avoid being caught peeking. Instead, he focused on her breathtaking form. Instead of the long-sleeved shirt, pants, and form-hiding vest, she now wore a pair of sandals, with leather straps that crisscrossed up her calves, and keyhole dress that exposed her E-cup cleavage. You look breathtaking, Yugao-chan, Naruto said, as he continued running his eyes over her. Yugao's cheeks flushed once again, as she looked down at the blonde boy. Damn it, how does this boy keep making me blush? It is nice to know he thinks I'm beautiful though, Yugao thought, as she tried to shake off the blush. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I'm glad you think so, because my boyfriend should think I'm beautiful. You're what now? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. My boyfriend. Our cover will be you're an amazing gambler with a lot of disposable cash. If we can get you winning, we can lure Tsunade out. Now you're gonna be lovey. Kiss me, hold me, slap my every once in a while, but don't go overboard, or I'll rip your balls off. I promise to restrain myself, if you allow me to buy you dinner, and give you a foot job when we check into our hotel room tonight. My Naruto-kun, you wouldn't be asking me out on a date, would you? Yugao said teasingly. I wouldn't think of it, until I ped the Chunin exams. Naruto smirked and kissed her hand. Yugao blushed slightly, as she turned her head away from him. Save some of that for the gambling hall, Naruto-kun. Now tell me, do you have any pocket money to start with? Naruto nodded, pulling out his oversized frog wallet. I didn't know how long we'd be gone, so I decided to bring Gama-chan along with me. I went ahead, and got enough ryo for long-term food, and boarding. Quote. Yugao smiled slightly, looking down at the slightly shorter boy. Well, that's good, Naruto-kun, but that'll be your gambling money. The Hokage has already given us an operating budget. As she finished speaking, a woman in a blank Anbu mask, with the word "ne" written on it, dropped down in front. Oh. F them. Naruto-san, Danzo-sama ordered Root in the area to report to you any news found on Tsunade. She is currently at the Valor Casino playing the slots, and waiting on a poker tournament to start. I have already entered you, and switched your dealer out with a Root agent. Meanwhile, I, and other agents will serve as servers, and other patrons while feeding you intel through this earpiece. She explained, handing him the earpiece. Naruto nodded, thanking the green-haired woman. Thank you. What is your name, by the way? You may call me Fu, Naruto-san, the woman said with a bow. Naruto nodded, shaking the young woman's hand. All right, Fu, I look forward to working with you. I'm going to head to the casino now, and try to earn some extra playing money. Of course, Naruto-san. We've already rented the two of you a room, and left several copings of the basics of poker in it. This way you can create several shadow clones to learn the game quickly, before the tournament. That won't be necessary, you see I grew up in the red light district. The money Gigi gave me only covered bills, and a small amount of food. I made money for shinobi gear, and clothes working as a broom boy at one of the gambling dens. I learned pretty much all the games, including poker. Naruto smiled, and kissed the back of her hand. Thank you for your help though. I look forward to seeing the beautiful face under that mask when the time comes. Quote, alright Casanova, let's get going. Yugao said, grabbing him by the hand, leading him towards the casino. Yugao was astonished at the skill Naruto had when it came to gambling. He hadn't even been getting help from the root at this point. He'd already somehow managed to get a hold of 500,000 ryo, between the roulette table, the blackjack table, and the craps tables. The kicker was, since Naruto had used his own wallet, he would get to keep the money he won. Naruto smiled, patting Yugao's upper thigh, while making it look like he was patting her. Love, would you go, and get me Jack, and Coke? He said, before placing another small stack of chips on 42. Yugao wondered why he would ask her for that, before it hit her. You evil bastard, you're gonna fake getting drunk, before the tournament to throw everyone off. If Hokage-sama didn't want to put you on display during the Chunin exams, I'd recommend you for a promotion for this. Single quote. Naruto's winning streak continued well into the tournament, with Yugao bringing him numerous Jack and Cokes throughout, until only he and Tsunade were left. The only reason Tsunade had remained this long was because she kept buying back in. Now she was down to her last few chips, which she threw in, and Naruto raised against. Damn it, I can't call that. Tsunade growled. Then how about a bet, ma'am? Naruto smirked, looking her over. What kind of bet, brat? Tsunade raised an eyebrow looking down at her cards. I'll go all in exchange you bet that necklace, and agree to do me one favor of my choice after the match. Tsunade looked down at the 3 kings she currently held in her hand. Deal, brat, what do you want anyway? Looking to cop a feel in front of your girlfriend? She laughed, trying to tease him. Naruto for his part simply stuck his tongue out at the woman, and grinned. Ladies first. He smirked. Tsunade grinned, and amidst a small amount of clapping placed her pair of kings on the table, resulting in a 3 of a kind. Nice try, kid, but you lose. Naruto merely smiled. I believe that's my line, beautiful. Naruto said, throwing down a jack, and a 10. Resulting in a straight. Tsunade's jaw dropped, as she looked at the cards on the table. I'll meet you in room 204 in 10 minutes to discuss that favor. 10 minutes later, Tsunade stood in front of Naruto in his hotel room. Alright kid, let's get this over with. She said, handing him the necklace, before she grabbed his hand, and moved it inside her top, allowing him to freely grope her. Wow, the bragging rights on groping the 5th Hokage are going to be amazing. Naruto grinned, squeezing her. Excuse me, you said the favor was going to be copping a feel, not being dragged back to Konoha. Tsunade yelled, slapping his hand away. No, you said getting a feel. Do you remember what my answer was? Naruto smirked. Tsunade's eyes widened, and her skin paled as she remembered that he had only stuck his tongue out at her. What makes you think I'll go back? It's not like you, or your little girlfriend could force me to go back. Simple. My girlfriend is an Anbu, who I'm confident could subdue your eye stand, and I placed a chakra suppression seal on your chest when you put my hand in your top. He said, pulling her top open, revealing the tag on her right nipple. There are more than enough undercover shinobi in this hotel to subdue you if you try to run. It's not just a favor to me, but an order from the 3rd Hokage for you to return to Konoha, and head up a new medical program, though. I'm sure if the old man decides to return to his retirement, before I'm ready to take the hat, you'll be the top candidate. We could also use your help. You retaking your seat on the Shinobi Council as head of the Senju clan would help even the scales with the civilian council. With the Uchiha clan gone until Sasuke Uchiha makes Jonin, the civilians outnumber the shinobi by 2, meaning we would have to get the elders to vote with us to get anything ped to the Hokage, and Koharu normally sides with the civilians. Quote, you don't understand, I can't go back there. Tsunade said, looking away. A loud pop sounded around the room, as Naruto's hand connected with her cheek. You think you're the only one who has lost loved ones in the line of duty? My parents were killed fighting the Kyuubi the night I was born. Before the fourth Hokage sealed it in me, my former teammate had his entire clan killed by his own brother, and was forced to relive it over and over in a genjutsu at the age of 8. My former sensei had both members of his genin SQ. UAD killed during the Third World War. You use your loss as an excuse to run from responsibility and gain pity from others. You dishonor the memory and legacy of your loved ones. Now get your act together, and you're big in gear, or so help me I will put you over my knee, and belt you like the ILD you're being. Naruto yelled loud enough for Yugao and Shizune to hear. Shizune wanted to rush past the young Anbu woman and come to her master's defense, but she knew she'd never get past her, and more importantly, that her master needed to hear this. Tears threatened to spill over Tsunade's eyes as she stared at the ground. Her eyes widened slightly when she felt herself being pulled into the strong arms of her fellow blonde. I know it hurts. It hurts every day, and it never goes away. You think about what could have been if they hadn't died. The years you could have had, the years you lost. I think about it every day. Growing up in a house with my parents, getting trained by them. My mom waiting for me when I got home after the academy, telling them about my missions when I graduated. To have them beside me when Gigi gave me the hat, and to watch them spoil my children. The pain never leaves, but I'll always be here to help you shoulder that pain. If you ever need to talk, or you just need someone to hold you and tell you it will be alright, just say my name, and I'll go. Me running for you, Naruto said, kissing the top of her head. Tsunade nodded against his chest as she tried to stop her crying. Thank you. We'll pack our bags and meet you downstairs in the morning. Quote. Naruto smiled and kissed her cheek. Just remember, if you try and run I will hunt you down, he said, tickling her rib. The older woman giggled slightly and pulled away. Don't worry, I'll be waiting for you in the lobby in the morning. I'll even leave the chakra seal on as a show of faith, she said, opening the door, smiling at Yugao. He's gonna be a heartbreaker in a couple of years. If you're not careful I may snatch him up. Yugao's face went pink as she looked away. He's not actually my boyfriend, that was just our cover, she said, waving her hands in front of her. Naruto sniffled, giving his best wounded puppy face. Why Yugao-chan, I thought you liked me, he said, as a tear formed in his eye. The three women's hearts broke as they stared into the blonde's big beautiful blue eyes. Shizune and Tsunade turned, sending death glares at their Anbu companion, though the woman didn't seem to notice, as she had already moved in a burst of speed to comfort her young genin. Oh Naruto-kun, of course I like you. I didn't mean to make you sad, but remember we can't go on a date until you pee the Chunin exams, Yugao said, pressing the boy's head into her cleavage. 2 weeks had passed since Naruto had found Tsunade. Since Hiruzen had approved a long-term mission, the team decided to stay just over a week at the nearby hot springs. None of the females had complained, due to the fact that Naruto had offered to pay for their rooms with some of the money he had won at the casino. Tsunade and Yugao had done a fair share of teasing by entering the mixed baths 10 minutes after he entered every night. Now Naruto stood in front of one of the condemned apartment buildings of the red light district. After returning to the village, he had spoken with Hiruzen about investing some of his money into buying one of the condemned buildings in his neighborhood. Now with an army of clones, he was nearly finished bringing the building up to code. The working girls in the area were excited about having some upgraded housing. So Naruto-kun, how are the renovations going? A raven-haired woman, wearing a sheer tank top and a pair of short shorts asked. It's growing great Kagome-chan, I even made sure to reserve your 2-bedroom on the top floor just like you asked. He smiled, hugging the older woman. Thank you Naruto-kun. I know it will be a pain to carry the groceries up, but I just love the view the 3rd floor gives, she said with a smile. Oh, you don't have to worry about that Kagome-chan. I had my clones build elevators on each end of the walkways, this way you can take the lift up and not have to worry about the stairs, especially when it rains. Quote. Ah, you're the sweetest Naruto-kun, the woman said, leaning down, giving him a kiss on the cheek. Well, I had some of the best women in the world looking out for me as a child, he said, giving the woman a hug. Now since you seem to be free, Why don't you let me treat you to some ramen while my clones finish up here? They just need to finish painting and cleaning up, so by the time we get back, we'll be ready to see your apartment. He smiled, holding out his hand. You sure it's good for your shinobi reputation to be seen walking around with a hooker? Kagome asked, gesturing to her style of dress. First of all, I can't see how having a beautiful woman on my arm could be anything but good for my reputation, and second, if anyone has a problem with it, they can my blonde nuts. Naruto said, before he felt a hand smack the back of his head. Language. Naruto-kun, you may be a big bad shinobi now, but you're never too old to go over my knee. The 21-year-old woman said, looking down at him. Yes, Kagome-chan, I'm sorry. He said, giving her a hug, his face nestling in her neck just above her D-cup. Kagome-chan, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since our genin days. Ayame said, as the two entered the small ramen stand. Naruto looked between the two women. Wait, you two were kunoichi? Naruto asked. Yeah, Kagome-chan was held back a couple of times, and then was in the reserves until my team graduated, and needed a third. After our first Chunin exams, we decided the shinobi life wasn't for us. Kagome went to work in the red light district, and I went to work full-time at the ramen stand. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. That's why you had those days you weren't around when I was a kid. You were on missions with your genin squad. Yup, we're technically still genin, but in the reserves. That means we'll only be called back to active duty in the event of a war, as a step before the draft, or in the case of an INV. Asian to help guide the civilians to the bunkers. I hope the two of you have been keeping up with your training in case that day comes. Naruto said. Kagome sighed, shaking her head. Unfortunately, I don't have time. I can make my own schedule, but my time is split between work, light workouts to keep myself in shape, and sleep. Same here, though I have Sundays off, since Dad closes the shop that day to go get supplies from our vendors. Since I know the basics of chakra, he orders from a retired shinobi-owned vendor who gives him the supplies in storage scrolls, so he only has to carry a single backpack, and the ingredients stay fresh longer. Ayame added. I've got an idea then. Kagome, on Sunday nights I'll rent out your entire night. I know from my childhood Sunday nights are your slowest nights anyway, so the three of us will train together then. Sundays are when Yugao-sensei said I'd have the day off on Sundays anyway, because that's when Kurenai, Anko, Hana, and her get together for their girls' day when they're not on missions. You guys don't have to go as hard as I do, but I'd like you to keep the rust off. When I talked to Gigi, and Elder Danzo, they seemed off. I don't know Danzo, but Gigi seemed like something was bothering him. I just want you two to stay safe. Naruto said, hugging the both of them. We know Naruto-kun. We'll do some light sparring with you on Sundays in the afternoon. We're not looking to go back to active duty, but we'll be ready if something happens. Kagome said, rubbing his back. Ayame nodded, kissing his forehead. She's right, Naruto-kun, we're not going anywhere. After a week of in-village training, and D-rank missions. Naruto and Yugao stood in front of Hiruzen once again. It's good to see you, Naruto-kun. I take it you're here about that C-rank Danzo request. That's right, Gigi. Naruto said, with a smile. Alright, Naruto-kun, however I did talk to Danzo, and we decided with the size of the camp you'd need some backup. Guy's team has been around for a year, and they've only done one mission involving a killing. I'd like them to accompany you. Your senseis will stay back, and only interfere if they believe you are in imminent danger. Hiruzen said, as Team Guy entered the room. Ah, Guy, you're here. I was just explaining to Naruto-kun that your team would be joining him on the bandit camp clearing mission. Now since the senseis will be back up on this mission, I want a field commander for the genin. Which is why I'd like Naruto-kun to take on that role. You can IGN leadership roles to your team on your solo missions. However, Naruto-kun is an apprentice, and Yugao wants to enter him in the Chunin exams, so I'd like him to get some experience leading a team. Quote, the Hyuga of the team seemed to scowl at the thought of a clanless rookie giving him orders, but wisely kept his mouth shut. That sounds fine, Hokage-sama. Naruto-kun, we can leave in the morning. I'd like to get with you later to inform you of my team's strengths, so we can formulate a battle plan. Guy said with his trademark smile. That would be wonderful, Guy-sensei. I think it would be best if your team joined me and Yugao-sensei for dinner at my place tonight. We can go over sales and use the intel we have to develop a plan together. I don't have experience leading a team, so I'd like to take advantage of input from both of you while I have the chance. That is a wise decision, Naruto-kun. You should always take advice from experienced comrades when you're unsure of something. Hiruzen said, smiling slightly. The following morning, the two teams took off to Northern Fire Country. Naruto had sent a small contingent of clones ahead of the teams for recon. Neji was placed in the center of the formation and ordered to use his Byakugan in 5-minute intervals, every hour till they arrived at the affected town. Then he'd use it for an hour to ensure the bandits were not inbound while the team was busy staging. How many are we looking at, Neji? Naruto asked, as they sat in a bar within the affected town. 45, just like your intel said. The majority are regular bandits, however I sense 2 above average chakra signatures. My guess is high genin, to low chunin level. He replied. Alright then, the plan stands. I'll use the water shockwave to flood the area, and take out as many as we can. The shinobi level signatures will likely know water walking, so once the cannon fodder is taken care of, we'll move in. Everyone stick to your ignid partners. Guy-sensei, when this is over, I would suggest some joint training with myself and Yugao-sensei. Your team is skilled, however they're too specialized. I understand Lee's situation, and Neji being a Hyuga, however Tenten has the ability to round herself out a little more. If she were to come up against a wind user, say Asuna Shinobi during the Chunin exams, all of her weapons would be easily blown away. I believe you're right, Naruto-kun. Yugao and I will get together after the mission and come up with a once-a-week joint training program. Guy said. The bandits' camp was located within a small ravine, making them an easy target for Naruto's jutsu. Water style. Water shockwave. Naruto said, as water swirled around him, in a large geyser shape. In the ravine below, the bandits guarding the camp looked up at the edge of the ravine, staring in disbelief at the vortex in front of them. What the hell is that? One screamed, before the vortex turned into a large wave that collided with the camp, washing away the majority of the camp. When the water cleared, many lay dead from the impact, while some struggled to wade in the 4 feet of water. While 2 men stood on top of the water. It seems those villagers managed to sneak out a message and hire some shinobi joveri. A black-haired man, with a scar running from his left eye down to his chest. It would appear so, Vasaki. A blond man with a mask over his face replied. The 4 genin appeared in front of them, standing on the water. Joveri laughed at the sight of the 4 teens. Really, all they could afford was a few brats. Careful, Joveri. One of them just used a B-ranked ninjutsu to change the entire battlefield to their advantage. Quote, their Jonin senseis are probably nearby, and used the jutsu to give them a fighting chance, since we had the numbers advantage. Joveri scoffed. Naruto decided he was tired of their talking, and threw an explosive tag between the two, forcing them to separate. Lee and Naruto took on Joveri, while Tenten and Neji Vasaki. So Javari, I haven't read your name in the bingo book. I'm Joveri Tenmaki, C-rank missing ninja of Iwa. Which means putting leaf scum like yourself in your place will be icing on top of paying you back for my men. Quote, Lee, you've got the speed advantage, and we don't know what range this guy fights at, so I'll take him, and you watch my back. Naruto said, unsealing his Kubikiri Hocho from his arm. Joveri's eyes widened, as he stared at the sword. Where did you get that sword, boy? He said, narrowing his eyes. I am the legacy of the late Zabuza Mamochi. Before I killed him he made me promise to carry on the legacy of the Demon of the Mist. Naruto said, as he held up a hand, and deactivated his weight seals. Now I'm going to thank you before we start. The man raised an eyebrow, looking at the young Uzumaki. What the hell would you thank me for, kid? I'm about to kill you, unless you want to die. No, nothing like that. I'm simply thanking you, because when you die it will add to my infamy, if only by a small margin. Naruto smirked, holding his hand up, as a thick mist began to roll in. So you think using the famous hidden mist jutsu will scare me? You're not even half as skilled as Zabuza in the silent kill. Joe taunted, hoping to get Naruto to respawn. Shows what you know, you're a dead man already. Came the voice of the blonde from his left. Got you, Earth style. Rock gun. She shouted, as he shot thick chunks of rock from his mouth towards the noise, only to stop last minute, and jump, as he felt the large blade come down on his shoulder. Joe screamed in pain, as he shed the thin strings of flesh and muscle that held his hanging arm to his torso. You brat. It's funny how easy it is to disable the average shinobi. You see, shinobi just focus on flashy jutsu that will make them famous. They never think, what happens if one of my arms is disabled, and I can't use two-handed hand signs, meaning they become easy prey if you can take their arm out. Stop hiding, and fight me, you coward. The man yelled, swinging his kunai. Why would I? You're already dead, the voices around him said, as Naruto's blade came down on his neck. Lifting the mist, Naruto sealed the head, and turned to Lee. Lee, I'll let you take care of the stragglers. I'm going to hang back near Tenten, and Neji in case they need backup. Lee nodded, and moved to take out the remaining bandits, while Naruto paid close attention to Tenten, and Neji's fighting styles. He knew it was highly likely that guy would enter his team in the exams this year. Which meant there was a possibility that he'd have to fight one, or all of them at some point, and seeing as it didn't look like they would be needing his help, he might as well take this opportunity to watch them in action. After the battle, Tenten looked around, and for the first time, took notice of the sword on Naruto's back. Naruto, where did you get Kubikiri Hocho? From Zabuza himself. I killed him during Team 7's mission in Waves. He asked me to do it, and take the sword to carry on the legacy of the Demon of the Mist. Naruto explained. Can I hold it? She asked, giving him her best puppy dog eyes jutsu. Well, I'm not sure if you can. Zabuza said I'd be the only one to be able to hold it, so I don't know if I'm able to give you permission to hold it. Tenten looked up at him with pleading eyes, hoping to get him to try. Please Naruto-kun, I'd be ever so grateful. Naruto looked back at Yugao for help. Don't look at me, Naruto-kun, as the last Uzumaki, and the owner of one of the 7 swords of the mist, you LLB put in the CRA, not to mention the Uzumaki have a long history of polygamy. Which means you're on your own. She smirked. Fine, when we get back to the village, we'll go to the training ground, and see if it works. If it doesn't, I know a man named Raiga has the Kiba blades, so I'll take you with me when I go to kill him, and you can take the Kiba blades, but we will be working out an equal trade. The team made it back in record time, with Tenten pushing her Genin squadmates to their limit to get back. Lee, are you sure you're the only one training with weights? That felt much too fast for Tenten. Neji said. Neji ignored her team, and dragged her blonde companion to the nearest training ground. Alright Naruto-kun, what kind of deal would it take for you to let me touch Kubikirako, and help me get my hands on the Kiba blades? Well, I need to get more used to the female body, so I don't fall for seduction techniques. How about you let me touch your butt, and I'll let you hold it for the same amount of time? Quote. Tenten thought about it for a moment. She knew that once she made Chunin she'd likely have to take her own seduction missions anyway, and allowing Naruto to touch her would make her more comfortable with the idea of a man touching her. How about this? Kunoichi take on the majority of seduction missions, meaning when I make Chunin, I'll likely have to take on some of those missions as well. Which means I'll need to gain experience too. If you let me hold the sword for 5 minutes, and help me get the Kiba blades, we'll be each other's training partners, and partners. This way the two of us can get used to it. You'll learn to resist seduction techniques, while learning how to pleasure a woman, and I'll learn how to seduce, and assure a man. Do we have a deal? Naruto thought about it for a moment, before nodding. That sounds good. The girls in the red light district gave me the basics, so I won't be going in blind, but I could use the hands-on experience. Quote. Tenten raised an eyebrow looking at him with suspicion. Why have you been hanging out in the red light district? I've lived there since I was 4, Gigi gave me the apartment when the orphanage kicked me out. Quote. If your Gigi had the money for a second apartment, why didn't he just adopt you? Tenten asked. Gigi is what I call the Hokage, since he's acted like my grandfather since I was a kid. Naruto explained. The civilian council made a law saying no one could adopt me. Apparently having the village Jinchuriku in any one family would tip the scales of power too much. I was also abused a lot as a child, so Gigi decided to put me somewhere where people didn't care about your past. My money was as green as everyone else's, and now that I'm investing it back into the area, they like me even more. The girls there have watched out for me since I was little, and trust me, no one wants to tick off a prostitute. One of them blackballs you, the rest will never speak to you again. They sound like honest, hard-working people. Tenten said, as she tried to lift the Miv sword. This thing weighs a ton. How do you even carry it? Quote. Naruto chuckled, watching his bun-haired comrade struggle with the Miv weapon. There's a training version sealed in it. It starts out light, and gets heavier as you adjust to it. By the time it turns blue, you can swing the sword pretty well. Right now I'm working on gold. How do you do that? My muscles would be sore for days after that. The Kyuubi gives me a healing factor. Things like sore muscles are gone in a few hours, the healing also makes my muscles grow faster. It's one of the reasons why Jinchuriku are thought of as perfect weapons. We can be trained into the ground, and be fine by the next morning. Naruto said, a little sadly at the end. Tenten placed the sword on the ground, and walked over, stroking the blonde's cheek. Naruto-kun, you are not a weapon. You are a brave shinobi, who is doing his best to protect the people he loves. I admire your spirit, and your drive. You've gone through so much at the hands of the village, and yet you still fight every day to protect it. She said, kissing his cheek, before pulling him into a hug. Naruto hugged her back, before the two decided to head back to his apartment for some second base groping, and making out. Afterwards they spent the night eating ramen, and talking about their plans for the future. Naruto still wanted the hat, but he was now more focused on becoming the strongest shinobi in the village. While Tenten was hoping to convince Tsunade to give her some lessons on medical ninjutsu. Well, let's go see her. She does still owe me a favor. Before Tenten could question him, Naruto was dragging her along to the Senju compound. Hey Tsunade-chan, open up in there. Naruto yelled, banging on the door. The door swung open, and a fist shot out, slamming into Naruto's head. What are you doing here, brat? And who said you could call me Tsunade-chan? Naruto popped up from the small crater in the ground, rubbing his head. Fine, Tsunade-hime, I'm here to collect that favor you owe me. Quote. What are you talking about? You used that favor to get me back here. She scoffed, turning her head so he couldn't see the light blush on her face. Technically that was an order from the Hokage for you to return. I never said it was the favor. Tsunade huffed slightly. Fine, what's the favor? Want to cop another feel or something? She said, causing Tenten to look at Naruto in surprise. No, nothing like that. Though I wouldn't mind taking you on a small trip back to that casino when I take some vacation days before the Chunin exams. He smiled, kissing her hand. The truth is, my friend here is a big fan of yours, and has always wanted to study under you. Her sensei is Might Guy, and as I'm sure you know, he focuses almost purely on taijutsu. Which is fine for his student Lee, who can't use ninjutsu, or genjutsu, as well as his other student who is a hyuga, but it leaves Tenten with a limited skill set, and wastes a lot of her potential. Quote. Fine, I'll teach her some medical ninjutsu on her team's days off, but after this we're even. If you want me to do anything, you're going to take me out to a proper dinner, and butter me up like a real gentleman. Tsunade said, crossing her arms. That's fine, Tsunade-hime. I'd take you out to dinner just to get an excuse to sit across from your beautiful smile. Naruto replied, with his trademark million gigawatt grin. Baka. Stop trying to be cute. She said, looking away. Tsunade-sama, I have a question. Why do you act like a teenager sometimes? Tenten asked, looking up at the taller woman. My grandmother was Mito Uzumaki. Like Naruto-kun, I have Uzumaki blood in me. Though I know we're from different branches, because Mito Bachan was an only child. Uzumakis are blessed with large chakra reserves, and by extension long lifespans. This causes the Uzumaki to have childlike mentalities longer. For example, chronologically I'm 50, but physically and mentally I'm only about 19. The truth is I don't actually use my advanced henge for anything except ducking creditors. Tsunade explained. So that means Naruto-kun is? Tenten asked. Mentally 13. The Uzumaki blood keeps us in our prime longer. For me my prime was 19 during the Second Shinobi World War. Naruto-kun still hasn't reached his prime yet, so he's still growing mentally. She smiled, rubbing his head. Deciding he had enough teasing. Naruto leaned in, and whispered in the taller blonde's ear. I may still be growing, but I'm big for my age. After a healthy amount of teasing, Naruto left Tsunade and Tenten to get acquainted while he went home for a well-deserved shower. That night in the dark underground of Konoha, a bun-haired girl met with a one-eyed elder. Well Tenten, how is he doing? He's progressing well Danzo-sama. He wants to make the village strong, and even burned a favor from a Sannin to get me training from Tsunade Senju. He still shows signs of that depression your root agents reported in his younger years, however it seems to be fading. Now that he's making more ties in the village. I believe if he is promoted during the Chunin exams, and placed in the CRA it will fully disappear once he's planted his own roots in the village. Currently he's renovating one of the apartments in the red light district. I believe the more he invests in the area, the stronger his ties will become. He also seems to have a high affinity for the local prostitutes, apparently they played a hand in raising him. Danzo nodded. Yes, I'm aware of his relationship with the women of that area. I planted a root agent in that area as one of the prostitutes when he was younger. She would take extra food, and cook books, and leave them in his apartment when he was younger. It's one of the reasons he's not a ramen-addicted fool. Is there anything else? Yes, he has agreed to help me track down Raiga, and retrieve the Kiba blades for my own use. Meaning if he can track down Kisame, Konoha will have 3 of the 7 swords of the mist in our possession. Quote, I hope he doesn't find Kisame until after the Chunin exams. If he does, we can have Kisame placed under his political protection as a vow of the Uzumaki clan. If you obtain the Raiga, will you be interested in marrying into the Uzumaki clan to consolidate the 3 blades? Quote, I admit I am growing more fond of him. I know you only told me to be friendly if I ever wound up on a mission with him, so he'd think of me as a friend, but if things continue on the track they're on, I could possibly see myself as one of his romantic partners. Tenten admitted. That will be all Tenten, return back next week for another update. Danzo said, dismissing his agent. Hi Danzo-sama, Tenten said, before leaving. Danzo chuckled to himself, as he looked at a black and white oil painting of the village from just after Hiruzen's coronation. The future flame of the leaf, marrying its future shadow. Naruto-kun, you never cease to amaze me. I'll apologize to lying to you later, but there are so few of us wind users in our village. Even my own heir is a earth user. He said, leaning back in his chair. In the month following Naruto's mission with Team Guy, he and Yugao had gotten into a routine of doing training, and D ranks 1 week, and a short-term C rank the following week. The regime gave Naruto the ability to train on a subject 1 week, and put it into practical application the following G week. He'd also gotten himself into the habit of leaving his clones to study at his apartment while he was out of the village. Now the 2-person team stood in front of their Hokage, and a young brown-haired girl in a blue shoulderless belly shirt, shinobi pants, and a blue apron skirt. Her Konoha plate was wrapped around her waist as a belt, and her blue eyes staring at Naruto. Ah Yugao, Naruto-kun, you're here. I'd like you to meet Irie, she was a year ahead of you at the academy. We had uneven teams last year, so she was forced to stay as a reservist for a year. She's been doing D ranks for the hospital, and the academy for the past year. I was hoping that since you and Yugao are a 2-person cell, you'd be willing to accept her as the 3rd member of your team. Since you're filed as an apprentice, it is up to the both of you to decide whether or not you want to accept her. Hiruzen explained. Irie stepped forward, and looked at the 2. Naruto, Yugao-sensei, I've been waiting a year for the opportunity to join a team. It is very rare that a reservist is given this opportunity. Most are forced to wait until 3 uneven clees graduate, or a team loses a member, either through one member dying, being promoted, or dropping from the program. If you accept me, I'll work as hard as possible to contribute to the team. Naruto walked forward, staring into her eyes. He'd always been able to tell when people were lying. He didn't know if it was his naturally good senses, or something to do with the Kyuubi, but he was thankful for it either way. Turning to his sensei, he smiled. I like this one sensei. She's got kind eyes, and her hands say she's a hard worker. Well, there you have it. Welcome to the team. Yugao smiled. Irie's eyes lit up, before she tackled Naruto, hugging him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She cried out, hugging him. Naruto stood up, patting her on the head. Gigi, why is it when I talk to women, I'm always the one who winds up being attacked? Yugao giggled, ruffling her student's hair. That's because you're so cute, Naruto-kun. The ladies can't keep their hands off of you. Naruto crossed his arms, giving his sensei a slight pout. Let's just go to the training grounds. Now that we've got a new member, we need to go over new group formations. Quote. Yugao sighed, rubbing her forehead. Always with the training with this one, even on his days off. You're kidding? Irie asked skeptically, as most rookie genin only did the bare minimum. Nope. Every day he's doing some kind of training. Though that stamina will come in handy later on. Yugao teased. I can't hear you, I'm already headed to the training ground. Naruto said, jumping out of the window. Yugao giggled, looking at Irie. We should go, before he destroys the training ground again. Again? Irie asked. It's better if you see what he's doing. Yugao said, escorting the young girl to her team's normal training ground. When they arrived, Irie was shocked to see several groups of Naruto's training on different subjects. What is he doing? He's using shadow clones to train in katas, ninjutsu, and chakra control. If I leave him alone, he normally has them work on mastering skills he's already learned. Quote. Irie stared in amazement. I wish I could learn the shadow clone. That would make training so much easier. It takes a large amount of chakra, and puts a heavy mental strain on the user. If you can get your chakra levels up to Jonin, we'll talk about you learning it. Yugao said. Now I take it you know the tree walking technique. Yes, and water walking. Good for today, we'll have you do water running to increase your chakra reserves. If you do well with it by our first break, I'll have you balance a kunai on your head while you do it, then tomorrow we'll work on your ninjutsu. Since Naruto-kun has already set his clones up while he does his physical exercises, I'll focus on you for the day. Yugao said, with a smile. The team decided to take a break for lunch around noon, at which point Yugao decided to raise a question. Naruto-kun, what level of fuinjutsu have you gotten to? Naruto looked up from his bento, and swallowed the mouthful he had been chewing. Around level 6, meaning I can currently make elemental seals, and gravity seals. Why, I was hoping you could get Irie-chan started with some low-level gravity seals after lunch. This way we can work on her speed, so we don't have to slow down as much during C-rank missions. Yugao suggested. Sure, I can apply them after lunch. He said, before looking at Irie. You can keep your covered, but I am going to need you to remove your shirt though. Irie looked at him in curiosity, wanting to reserve judgment until after he had explained. Okay, but why? I'll need to put a seal on your stomach, as well as the ones on your arms and legs. This will evenly distribute the weight, instead of concentrating it in your legs. It's one of the reasons I don't like Lee's training method. His weights are heavy, but having all of the weight concentrated in the legs will cause him joint problems later on in life, because he's putting hundreds of pounds of pressure on his joints with every step he takes. If he were to use my method instead, he'd be able to use the same amount of weight, while at the same time distributing the load amongst all of his joints rather than just the ones in his legs. Which reminds me, you can keep your underwear on, and skirt on for modesty, but your leggings will need to come off, since your thighs will provide a much larger surface than your ankles to work with. I'm still not proficient enough in sealing to use things like micro seals. Naruto explained. I'll take it, if you think it will make me stronger, just make sure you keep your hands away from the fun part. Ts. 3 dates minimum before you get to touch those with the clothes on. Irie said, crossing her arms. Dang Irie, you're pretty forward, already thinking about a third date. Yugao giggled. Irie blushed, waving her hands. That's not what I meant. I mean, yeah, he's cute, but. Wait, I mean, she sputtered out. Naruto smiled, kissing his new teammate's cheek. Don't worry, Irie-chan, I think you're cute too. Alright, ladies man, hurry up with the seal, so we can get back to training. Yugao said, gently smacking the back of his head. Naruto nodded, and waited for Irie to strip, before he began applying the seals to her body. Wow, Irie-chan, your skin is so soft, and clear. You make the perfect canvas. He complimented absent-mindedly. The compliment caused his comrade's cheeks to turn bright red. Thank you, Naruto-kun. No one really notices how much I try to take care of myself. I've been told I've got a very plain look to me. Naruto finished applying the seals, and grabbed her by the chin. Listen here, Irie-chan, you are a beautiful young lady, and if anyone says otherwise, well, they can come talk to me, and I'll shove my foot so far up there, the water on my knee will quench their thirst, he said, kissing her cheek. Irie giggled, kissing his cheek. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You're like a giant ball of sunshine that just brightens up everyone's day. Alright, you two, you can face after training, if you have the energy. Yugao said, interrupting the moment. Naruto smiled, and kissed Yugao's cheek. Yes, Yugao-chan, he said, before showing Irie how to activate the seals. Hey Naruto-kun, why do you call Yugao-sensei, Yugao-chan? Irie asked, activating the seals, which caused her to drop to one knee. Yeah, I should have warned you about that. By the looks of your arm seals, you pumped in enough chakra for an extra 150 pounds total. Naruto explained. As for why I call her Yugao-chan, she told me to only call her Yugao-sensei when we're in front of others outside of our team. This way, if we're on an undercover mission, like when we went to get Tsunade-chan, we didn't want to spook her, and run the risk of her taking off on it, so I was given permission to call her Yugao-chan. That's right, Irie, and I want you to do the same. During team meetings, and on missions that don't involve escorting, or guarding a client, I want you to refer to me by name. Yugao instructed. Now try, and walk. I want you to do as many laps around the training ground as you can until you can't walk. Yes, Yugao-chan. Irie smiled, before taking labored steps around the training area. Seems you've got another admirer, Yugao-chan. Should I be jealous? Naruto chuckled and stretched. Oh shush, you act like you haven't been flirting with every kunoichi we've met since we teamed up. Yuga teased back. I don't know what you're talking about, Yugao-chan. I only hold conversations. It's not my fault if my words are smoother than cream cheese on your morning bagel. He smirked, giving her a slap, before running off to continue his training. I'm gonna get him back for that when he pays the Chunin exams. She said to herself, as she thought of the dress she'd had her eye on for the past few weeks. After an exhausting day of training, Naruto was determined to make his way home, and take a long hot shower. His plans were brought to a grinding halt, when he walked into his apartment to find Tenten wearing a lacy black bra with red ribbon straps, and matching panties. Welcome home, Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes roamed over Tenten's athletic form. From her angelic face, down her high B-cup, her toned stomach, and over her wide powerful hips. You look beautiful, Ten-chan, but what are you doing? Tenten smirked, walking towards him, with an exaggerated sway in her hips. Why, I'm seducing you, of course. She said, walking up to him. Slight. Tenten grabbed the blonde man by the arm, and pushed him onto the couch. You look so tired, Naruto-kun. I think you need to sit back, relax, and let me make you feel better. She said, spreading his legs apart. I mean, I did have a long day at training today. Yugao-chan, and I got a new teammate from the reserves today, so we had to add team exercises to our training routine. Quote, ah, my poor Naru-kun. Just sit back, and let your sweet Ten-chan make you feel better. She smiled, pulling his zipper down with her teeth. With one swift movement, the young kunoichi stripped her partner of his pants, and boxers, allowing all 9.5 inches of his erect member to lurch forward from its confines. Wow, Naru-kun, you must really like my outfit. She giggled, giving his head an experimental lick. Naruto let out a slight moan, looking down at his lover's chocolate brown eyes. Ten-chan, you'd look beautiful in a potato sack, he said, running his fingers through her hair, which was now pulled around her shoulders. The young kunoichi's cheeks turned bright red, as she slowly stroked the thick member in front of her. I'm supposed to be doing the seducing here, sweet talker. She said, before taking him into her mouth, moving it back and forth across the first 5 inches of his. I think you're doing an amazing job, he said, through several moans. One hand clawing the sofa, as the other moved to Tenten's resting shoulder, lowering the strap of her bra. Tenten smiled, and aided him by removing her straps, and unhooking her bra. Her mouth never left his, as the article of clothing fell to the floor in front of her. Her light brown nipples standing perfectly erect in the cool air. The blonde genin stared in awe of his beautiful partner, as his hand made its way down to her right, giving it a light squeeze. The young brunette let out a moan against the in her mouth. Her partner's fingers finding their way to her nipple. Naruto-kun, if you keep that up you might have to finish what you start. She purred, licking his tip. Naruto responded by hoisting her onto his shoulder, and walking to the bedroom, where he pulled her panties down, and laid her on top of him, with her womanhood in his face. His lips immediately latched onto her clit, creating a vacuum that pulled blood into the small bundle of nerves stretching them out, as his tongue narrowed, and flicked over it. Tenten let out a small cry of pleasure, before she quickly wrapped her lips back around his. Her head began moving faster, taking more of his length into her mouth with each stroke. Naruto's own mouth was busy making circles around her clit, as his fingers traveled back to her, rolling, and pulling lightly on her nipple. The action elected more moans from the brunette, which in turn increased the vibrations around his. Tenten's eyes closed, as she lowered her mouth to the base of her partner's. Her tongue sloppily running around the shaft of his member. Ten-chan, I'm gonna come, he warned in a muffled voice, as he continued to alt her clit with his tongue. Tenten screamed around his, as she was sent over the edge with pleasure. Her juices splashing against Naruto's face. The immense vibration against his already pulsing member caused Naruto to erupt in Tenten's mouth, his seed spraying the back of the young kunoichi's throat. Tenten laid next to her blonde lover, a smile on her face. I know we're just supposed to be practicing with each other, but would you mind if I laid with you for a bit? My legs are kind of weak, and you're a perfect teddy bear. I don't mind, Ten-chan. I enjoy spending time with you, so if you're going to give me an excuse to cuddle with you, then I'm not going to say no. He smiled, wrapping an arm around her waist. How has your training with Tsunade-chan been going? It's going well. We've been doing a lot of chakra control exercises, and studying a lot of anatomy. She says we can start on actual medical ninjutsu next week, now that I've caught up on advanced anatomy. How's your individual training going? Have you made any progress on the Bloody Mist style? It took a while, but I've managed to make a lot of headway. It relies on a lot of physical strength and leverage. I likely won't be able to utilize it to its full potential until I have another growth spurt. True, but mastering the katas now will give you a big advantage when you are big enough to use it. Also, studies have shown that a person's body type can be altered in puberty based on the activities they took part in during their formative years. Meaning if you're swinging around that sword now, you'll likely gain a more muscular physique in your adult years. She explained, absent-mindedly rubbing his pec. I'm glad I've got such a smart girl helping me out, he responded, kissing her cheek. I know there's a chance we'll have to fight each other in the Chunin exams, but I still want to see you become the strongest kunoichi you can be. Quote, I feel the exact same way. I can see the progress you're making every day. I don't need to see the future to know that you're going to be one of the strongest shinobi the world has ever seen, and I want to be standing alongside you when that happens, whether it be as a friend, lover, or partner. I want that too, Tenten. When I'm Hokage, I'd very much like you to be one of the Anbu in my guard, or one of the next generation of Sannin, meaning we're both going to have to train our hardest in order to make those dreams come true. Quote, I know Naruto-kun, and I know we can do it. We've got each other, my team, your team, Hokage-sama, and Tsunade-sama. From what I can tell, we also have the support of old man Danzo. He's a lot more stern than Gigi, but he seems like he'll do anything to make the village stronger, and keep it safe, he replied, pulling her closer, his thumb rubbing her shoulder. Tenten's heart lifted slightly, when Naruto said he considered Danzo an ally. Maybe we could ask him for help. He seems to be fond of me, He's given me basic access to his information network for mission intel. Quote, that's how you knew where Tsunade-sama was, and how many bandits were at the camp. Tenten guessed. Yes, I wouldn't be telling you this if I didn't trust you. I have a feeling Danzo is a private man, so don't say anything to anyone. He's trusting me with access to a very crucial resource when it comes to root. I don't want him to feel I can't be trusted. Tenten looked up at him, raising an eyebrow. What makes you think I can be trusted? She asked. It's one of the reasons I took you to Tsunade-chan. I'm basically a human lie detector. If I couldn't trust you, I would have stopped talking to you after the first mission. Not to mention if Tsunade-chan thought I was letting you slide for being beautiful, and thought she couldn't trust you. Let's just say, you would have had an extremely bad training accident while learning her super strength technique. He said casually. So romantic to know you'd have your MILF girlfriend have me whacked. Tenten smiled, rolling her eyes. Not whacked, just knocked out, and kept under the Senju compound as my own personal slave. Naruto chuckled, tickling her rib. Tenten giggled, pushing on his chest. So what we have now, just without you having to come find me when you're in the mood. Given what happened today, I don't think I really have to come looking. He smirked, poking her underarm. Now let's take a nap. My clones are going to finish their work for the day on the second apartment complex at sundown, so I want to go take a look at it when they're done. That sounds good. Are you going to be moving into one of the units? Quote, no, with a couple of more C ranks, and rent from my operational building, I'll be able to buy this building. I'm the only tenant here, which is why the landlord could never fix anything when I was growing up. He's getting up there in years, and wants to retire to a little retirement village in the land of hot water. He set me up a price that would give him what he needed to do it. So what are you going to do with the other units once you have it? Tenten asked. Well, first I'm going to put in some upgrades to the wiring and appliances in this one. I don't think that fridge has been upgraded since the Second Shinobi War. Given the floor plans for the top floor, I could knock out the kitchen wall and the hall bathroom and turn the place into a 2-bedroom 1-bathroom, though I could open up the wall near the bedroom door and add a master bathroom where this apartment's kitchen is, keeping the stove where it is, but adding more prep space to the other kitchen and turning the other living room into a dining room. I was thinking of adding indoor stairs to the living room area and turning the downstairs area into a study. There's a wooded area right behind here. I'm hoping to buy it soon and turn it into a part of the compound here in the red light district. Quote, you seem to have a very business-oriented mindset, Naru-kun. Why is that? She asked, looking up at him. I learned early on in life that there are 3 measures of influence: knowledge, money, and raw power. With the second, you can get the other 2 easily, through books and hired muscle. I see money as a tool. I can use it to recreate the Uzumaki clan here in the village. I read about it recently in a book. If I'm really descended from them like Tsunade-chan said, then I want to bring my family's strength to the leaf. I use my money to improve lives in the village, and bring more prosperity to our village. I'm thinking of investing in property in Suna as well. Why Suna? She asked curiously. Suna is currently our only ally among the Great Five. They're also the poorest. Being in the desert, they don't have much in the way of natural food supplies, and given the performance of their shinobi in recent years, due to lack of funding for better equipment and training, they've lost a lot of business when it comes to missions. I was thinking, if I could learn how to seal my shadow clones in a master scroll, and have them work the land, unsealing a new batch of clones when the first is getting ready to dispel. They'd keep an aquifer going to feed grazing land for cattle and food. I'd sell the food in the village, and hire the villagers to work the land. The clones would stay there as foramen, and as the chakra supply for the water. It would strengthen the bonds between our villages. Making our ally stronger will also make us stronger. What's your plan for buying it? Tenten asked. The Chunin exams are in about 2 more months. In about 2 more weeks I'll buy this building. After that Gigi will send my team to Suna. Right now there's a backlog of D-rank missions, because a lot of the genin teams are ramping up their training to prepare for the exams. I've been having a group of shadow clones take on D ranks during my training. They should have enough D ranks for a large plot of land by the time we leave. If Danzo's root agents are skilled, maybe he knows a more sustainable clone jutsu than the shadow clone. If you tell him your plan for Suna, he might be willing to point you in the right direction. That's a good idea, Ten-chan. I'll try to find him tomorrow, he said, kissing her forehead. The following morning, Naruto arrived at the Hokage Tower early in the morning, well before his team was to meet. Naruto-kun, what brings you to my office this early in the morning? Hiruzen asked, taking a puff of his pipe, while Danzo, who was also in the room for the morning chess match he'd enjoyed with his teammate for the past several decades, turned to greet the young boy. Good morning, Naruto-kun. It's a pleasure to see you again. Naruto gave a slight smile. It's good to see the both of you. Actually, Gigi, I came to ask you where I could find Danzo here, but it seems you two have saved me the trouble of tracking him down. Quote, oh, and what would you want with a retired shinobi like me? Danzo asked curiously. Tenten wasn't due to report in until tonight, which meant he was in the dark about the boy's intentions. Well, really, if either of you can help me, it would be great. I was hoping to buy some land in Suna, and use my ninjutsu abilities to turn it into a profitable farm. It would strengthen Suna, as well as our alliance with them. I'd also be able to leave a clone there who could spawn other clones, and feed information back to me. A early warning system in case Suna is invaded, and my own surveillance system within Suna's walls, in case there are any shinobi who are unhappy with our current alliance, and would do us harm. Danzo couldn't help the inwardly proud smile, that only years of training had managed to physically keep off his face. The boy was already thinking like a proper shinobi, using his legitimate business as a means to place agents inside another village's walls. There is a jutsu that is perfect for what you want. It's called the blood clone. It creates a clone with its own chakra pool, much like the shadow clone. The difference being that the blood clone produces its own chakra at 1/4 the rate of the original. You should know though, the jutsu requires 5% of the user's blood. It's a jutsu that is mainly used for creating commander clones. The clones can only be destroyed with a lethal blow. Normally 2 or 3 of them are made by a person over the course of several days. The clones are normally split between platoons. They create and dispel shadow clones in order to relay information across a battlefield. Go to your usual training ground. I'll have one of my agents drop off the scroll on it in a bit. Maybe Fu Yamanaka. She seems to have grown rather fond of you. Fu is a Yamanaka. I thought Yamanakas were blonde. Naruto asked. And I thought Uzumaki's had red hair. Danzo quipped. Touché. He replied. Well, thank you for your help. My apologies for interrupting your game. I will see you both later, he said, leaving. That boy is extremely ambitious, Hiruzen. A rookie genin, and he's already planting surveillance in other countries. I've also heard tell he's bought up a couple of the apartment complexes in the red light district, with plans to buy the building he's currently living in. That is true. He's been abusing his shadow clones to help us work through our backlog of D-rank missions. His mission record is almost unheard of for a non-wartime genin. If the judges are biased against him during the exams, his record would easily earn him a field promotion. Don't worry, Hiruzen. If he makes it to the finals, he's almost guaranteed a promotion. I personally screened this year's judges to ensure unbiased votes. If he earns his promotion, he'll get it. Thank you, Danzo. That boy is overdue for a fair shake in life. The life of a Jinchuriku is never easy, Hiruzen. All we can do is give him our support, and help him grow into the protector this village needs. Not that there are many who deserve it. Hiruzen nodded, taking a drag of his pipe, while moving a pawn up a space. That's true, Danzo, but with the use of his shadow clones for missions. Naruto-kun is slowly showing the people of the village how amazing he truly is. I believe by the time the Chunin exam finals roll around, he'll have several people cheering him on in the stands. Quote, I have a feeling you're right. Meanwhile, Naruto had made his way to the training field. Several sets of clones going over katas, balancing kunai down his spine while water running, the vacuum bullet, and sensing each other while in the thickest mist they could create. The original was currently meditating. He had come up with an idea for pulsing out his chakra in a circle around him to detect objects, but was having some trouble fine-tuning it. Currently he could make out the shapes of people and objects, but they came out blurry. They were more like vague shapes than anything distinguishable. The idea suddenly struck him. He had been using the technique in an unrefined pulse, what he needed was a flat, clean edge. Something that instead of draping over the object like a wet cloth, would scan a person like a hospital machine. Focusing on a thin blade of chakra that glided along the top of the GR and up the nearby trees. He could easily make out the form of a familiar person sitting in the trees. Fu-chan, I know you're in the tree to my 7:30. You can come out now. The orange-haired woman dropped down from the tree, long copper-colored hair tied back in a ponytail, D-cup covered by a black top that exposed her midriff, and her shapely hips clad in a pair of black shinobi pants, with a tanto strapped over her right shoulder. I'm impressed, Naruto-kun. There aren't many people in the village who can detect me, including our sensors, and Hyuga. Thanks, Fu-chan. I call it my chakra radar. You actually just helped me perfect it. He smiled, greeting the young root agent with a hug, which she hesitantly returned. Well, I'd appreciate it if you could teach it to me sometime. It would be a great help on my out-of-village missions. Speaking of, here is the scroll Danzo-sama said you requested. She said, handing him the scroll. Thank you, Fu-chan. I still have a few hours before my team meets. If you'd like, I can teach you the basics of the chakra radar. Quote, I'd very much like that, Naruto-kun. Danzo-sama would be extremely grateful if we could add the technique to Root's list of skills. Of course, but it's best suited for someone with both high chakra control and high chakra reserves. The goal is to create an extremely flat circle of chakra around your feet, and pulse it outwards in all directions. I found it helps if you picture it like those laser scan machines at the hospital. Fu nodded at the explanation. Alright, Naruto-kun, I'll give it a try, and for future reference, those are called MRI machines. She smiled, before taking a meditative stance. Deciding to start small, she focused a C rank amount of chakra into the technique, and pulsed it out, getting about 30 EET in every direction. That's amazing, Naruto-kun, it was like I could see you, and your clones even with my eyes closed. Yes, but to go beyond 100 feet takes at least a high B rank jutsu's worth of chakra. I've studied the last several Chunin exams. There's always a portion that involves a long-term survival test, where the teams try to eliminate each other. The only place here in Konoha that I could think of where that would be plausible would be the Forest of Death. Which is why I want to get it to the point where I can scan at least 2 kilometers in every direction. It'd give me a heads up on the other teams, and whatever animals are lurking around the forest. Fu was impressed by the thought the boy had put into the exams. I've never seen a genin put this much thought into the Chunin exams. Most of them simply go in blind, and hope for the best. I promised someone I'd do my best to become the strongest Hokage there is. Which means I've got to take every opportunity, and study as much knowledge as I can. Speaking of knowledge, Naruto-kun, I heard you've been studying Fuinjutsu. Are you proficient enough to make reinforcement seals for walls? Quote, yes, but the ones I can make are only C rank at best. They'll increase a wall's integrity, but they won't protect against a long-term siege. He admitted. That's better than nothing. Danzo-sama wants to hire you for a C rank mission to add those seals to the outer wall of Konoha. As well as any other seals you can think that would help. My clones are still studying right now. I can get to it Sunday after my training with Ayame-chan and Kagome-chan. I'll add master seals at key points around the top of the wall that will connect with fire seals along the exterior of the wall. When chakra is pulsed through them, it will transfer to the seals on the wall, and shoot fireballs in a volley at the enemy. That will be perfect, Naruto-kun. The longer you can keep them away from the walls the better. Quote, you know something you're not telling me, Fu-chan. I can sense when people are lying to me, even when they're as trained as you. I know you can, Naruto-kun, but the information is classified. You'd need to be read in by Hokage-sama, or Danzo-sama. I hope you understand. Naruto hugged her, smiling. I understand, Fu-chan. You're a faithful kunoichi of the village. I know you would never give up information that could hurt the village. I'll talk to Gigi and Danzo. Would you mind asking them to meet me at Gigi's office today at 5:30 when training is finished? Of course, Naruto-kun. Danzo-sama has put Root at your disposal. I will be your personal liaison with Root. When Danzo-sama has a scroll, or a mission request for you, he'll send me to deliver it. You can also call me by pulsing chakra into this seal. I'm rarely out of the village, but on the rare occasion that I am, I'll send another agent in my stead. Quote, I look forward to working with you, Fu-chan. He smiled. As do I, Naruto-kun, but I do have to get back and report in. Though we should get something to eat when you have the chance. It'd be best if we were seen socially together. It would keep people from being suspicious when I come to deliver something, if it seems like I'm just a friend coming to visit you again. Good idea. I'll meet you outside the Hokage Tower after my meeting, and we'll go to the Akamaiki restaurant for dinner. Quote, Fu nodded, and bid the young blonde goodbye, before returning to her master. While said blonde began studying the scroll for the blood clone jutsu. If he could master it, before his mission to Suna, he could create one to create shadow clones for studying, and one when he got to Suna to manage his property there. 2 hours later, Yugao and Irie arrived, accompanied by Team 8. I see you two brought company. Naruto said, his eyes still closed, and his back to the group. How can you tell, Naruto-kun? I didn't see any of your clones dispel. Yugao asked. It's my new technique, chakra radar. By the outlines, I can tell you brought Hinata-chan, Kiba, and Shino with you. I'm guessing the fourth person is their sensei. Quote, Kurenai raised an eyebrow. That's impressive, Naruto-kun. If I didn't know better, I'd guess you were a Hyuga. Unfortunately, I'm not that good. He replied, standing and facing his fellow shinobi. So what brings you to our team meeting? I asked them to come for a joint training exercise. I know a team-on-team spar is unfair based on numbers, but I figured your shadow clones could even the odds. I figured getting used to fighting someone outside of your usual sparring partners would be good for you. No worries, Yugao-chan, I've got that under control. Captain, get over here. Naruto yelled to his clone. The female version of Naruto came running over, her blonde pigtails bouncing slightly. This is my blood clone, codename Captain. I have her transformed into my female form so she's easy to distinguish from the others. Since she's a blood clone, she'll only dispel if you hit her with a lethal shot. Try not to though, these blood clones are a pain to make. The group nodded, while Yugao and Kurenai made mental notes to ask the blonde where he learned another forbidden technique. Though they'd make sure to do it after the other genin had left. It doesn't matter how many of your clones you make, Dobi. 0 times 0 is still 0. Naruto chuckled. Wow, Kiba, you can do basic math now. Kurenai-sensei, you must be a great teacher. Kurenai chuckled at the quip. One of the reasons she had agreed to this joint training was Yugao's raving about her blonde student. She had hoped the boy could knock some of the false bravado out of her student's system. He had the habit of thinking he was the alpha of any group he entered. She had asked his mother about it, but the woman had said it went too far, even by Inuzuka standards. She had been half tempted to ask her female student to check if he was overcompensating for something, and she would have, if she didn't think the girl would faint at the mere request. All right, you six, line up on either side of the field, and get ready for our signal. Remember, no lethal shots, your goal is to incapacitate your opponents. Yugao said, as she and Kurenai stood on opposite sides of the field. Naruto smirked, placing his hand on Irie's lower back, tracing a message on her spine. Stay near, Captain, she'll be your eyes. Irie looked at him, and nodded. Enough, grab with your dobi. The area grew cold, as Naruto's hair covered his eyes. Start the match, he said stoically. Yugao nodded to Kurenai, both women knowing that this would hurt for Kiba. Begin, they yelled. Hidden mist jutsu, Naruto whispered, as a thick blinding mist rolled over the field. What? Too scared for your whore to see you get your kick, dobi? Don't worry, when this is over I'll take her back to my place, and show her what a real man looks like. She'll be screaming my name all night. The women in the area, as well as Shino, scowled. Hinata looked to Shino, her Byakugan activated. Shino nodded as the two of them stepped back. Kiba had this coming, and they both knew it. Naruto growled slightly, before appearing in front of Kiba. His fist made direct contact with the young Inuzuka's gut, sending him flying back. His momentum was stopped when Naruto grabbed him by the throat. "Let me show you the error of your ways, Kiba," he said, lifting him up over his shoulders, before slamming him into the ground. "Welcome to the last ride," he said, grabbing the boy, placing their faces between each other's knees, before dropping to his knees. The movement slammed Kiba's skull into the ground. Naruto grabbed the boy's hands, crossing the unconscious teen's arms over his chest. "Rest in peace," he said, as he looked off into the distance.